Okay, it
Yeah.
wasn't recording. Now it's actually recording. Sorry. Something is wrong with our setup today. I don't know
Yeah.
what's going on. Has somebody changed? Yeah, so it's recording now. Sorry, Sindre, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add to the we'll have 2 meetings today, I guess, since we have a lot of new community members, which is very cool. We had, I guess, most of the new people found it on Hacker News, where it actually reached the #2 spot and is currently at the 16th highest show age and post of all time, which is really cool. And we've had a lot of new activity. Like, I'm not sure how many new active users we have, but I'm pretty sure it's at least 10 or 20 people who have actively tried it out and are messing around with it. So I think that's a very good start. And it's already shows like how much work remains on the documentation and how much more work we have to do on the onboarding. But I think it's promising. The few people who have actually spent time trying it out seem to be positive, and yeah, it's very cool. So yeah, I see a chat. Just Node latest stable version plans. So what is the latest Node stable version? Is it 16 now? I don't really remember.
Yeah, 16.70.
Yeah, so there were some actual problems. I really haven't dove into that yet. I can do that after this meeting. If there are problems still, the problems should not be major at all. It's probably some minor API changes or something. So I'll be sure to if it doesn't work now, I'll be sure to make it work for the next alpha, which I'll hopefully release tomorrow or in a few days with some new stuff. Also, we have, if you go to the domain imba.new and you're logged into Scrimba, you will jump directly into a new scrim. If you just log in, jump directly into a new scrim that works with Imba 2. It currently doesn't use the very latest alpha. It is alpha 140 something. But I'll get back to that. But I'm also working on full JSPM support for Imba, which will allow you to always use the actual latest version on the Scrimba editor. So since Scrimba is still kind of magical, it doesn't include any of the build stuff from Imba. So there will be some things that don't work at all. I saw that error. I'm not sure why.
Is there any way to, like, how do I check the version right now? The version that's running?
If you just comment that out, I just want to see if it works at all, because there have been some issues. Yeah, it works. That should have worked, I guess. No, it shouldn't. So after we introduced the tree shaking stuff, the way we refer to things that you access on the Imba object is rather complicated. So it tries to import version from the Imba exports, and I guess we're not including the version anymore. So that's something we should add back in. It's a good thing you notice it now. So
just throwing in, I tried imba.new just now, and it works just fine. So I can consult the log imba.version, and it just comes out 2.0.0. So
yeah, okay,
very strange.
Yeah, that's strange. Weird.
Yeah.
But it works. Good job.
Yeah. So the idea is, after we've made it work with JSPM fully, then I can start doing change logs on Scrimba. And with change log, I'm not talking about like large, long tutorials, but then I can actually show concretely what has happened from alpha to alpha. So there are a few new features, like the experimental initted hook for classes, which is really difficult to explain without showing it, and both difficult to explain how it works, but also why it's actually important. So I will try, when we get the Scrimba stuff working fully, I will try to post some small clips for these new types of experimental features. Cool. So pretzel but is that it's so the reason that's working pretzel hands is that the you're using an old Imba template, which is actually packing it on the server. So the version that Alexander showed, where you did scrimba.new, is actually, if you go to the index HTML, Alexander, it refers to the index.imba directly instead of doing it through the old Scrimba packager, because we are moving all of the Scrimba packaging system over to JSPM in like the short-term future. And that means we're actually going to use modules and rely much more on the native module support in the browser instead of trying to pre-pack everything in a weird mishmash of a Webpack-like packager that we have now. So Imba version probably doesn't work if you use it locally either. So that's something we should just fix. Should you go back to the topics, Alexander? Yeah. Also, I'm hard at work now, rewriting the core of Scrimba to Imba 2. So we already redid the site and everything around it, but the core, like the editor and the streaming technology stuff, is still written in Imba 1. And I've come relatively far on converting it to Imba 2. It raises a bunch of interesting challenges in Imba 2 and features that we're missing. One example is that we had class bodies were executable in Imba 1, like in Ruby. So you could define class methods and then call them in the class body, which we used for registering widgets and registering actions and stuff. But now we need to use decorators instead. And we didn't previously support class decorators, but that is coming in the next alpha. And there are a bunch of other features small features that will be needed to convert all of Scrimba to Imba 2, and that will obviously be added to Imba and be released as we go with this rewriting. But it's once we actually finished with that rewrite, the speed of development and new features on Scrimba will increase a lot. So very little has actually happened in the last 2 to 3 years with the basic Scrimba technology. But now that we're rewriting it to Imba 2, then we can get back to node support and all of that, all of those goodies that we have planned. So I'm really looking forward to that. At the same time, that makes me, I spend a lot of my time on that now, so I won't have that much time to like raw Imba 2 stuff, but I'll try to find a decent balance. Yeah, I can just go through a few of I don't even remember. It's a pretty long time since we had the last meeting. It may be June 22nd, according to Notion. Since that, there hasn't been that many major changes in the alphas. One kind of breaking change that came now in the last alpha was that we've started to add a display block style to all custom components by default. That's a decision we made after kind of going a lot back and forth, and we have discussed it for a long time, because web components by default have no display style. So it's kind of a weird, I'm not sure if it's display contents. I don't think it's that either. It's some weird type of display. So normalizing that to display block is, in most cases, that will be the less surprising behavior. But for those of you who have used components a lot, and maybe because the components displayed in a weird manner, you added divs or containers inside of self everywhere, then that may make some layout issues appear now. If it happens, then you could obviously just change the style back for your components, or better yet, get rid of the inner wrappers, because they shouldn't be needed. Like, custom components should not should definitely be styled and used as regular components, as regular tags, at least in my opinion.
I think that's going to make onboarding and also even showing examples in the docs a lot smoother, because it's almost the thing you expect to be there. So I think this sounds like a great change overall, even if it breaks a little bit of alpha Scrimba 2 use.
Yeah, I agree. And I think I have seen some long discussions regarding this exact topic on is it the Polymer project from Google or something, and web component shims and stuff like that. So it is an issue a lot of people find confusing. Another new feature, which is it's very practical, but it's kind of weird, is that you can now access the end of arrays by the negative number. So array -1 will actually access the last element. That's very nice because it's such a boring repeating pattern, like array and then array.length -1. The problem with it is that because of performance reasons, we definitely don't want to do a runtime check to see if your index is negative or not. So it only works with literal numbers. So you can't do array and then a variable which has a negative number. That won't work. And that's the reason I say that it's kind of strange, because it's, it borders on magical, and it borders on being kind of, formally it doesn't seem correct. But in my opinion, we should still keep it because it's so practical, and in almost all cases, you only want to get the last element or the second to last or something. But yeah, at least it's supported. So just so you know.
In the VS Code tooling, because of the use of TypeScript, is that something that would be possible to kind of introspect into, like if you see a variable and a minus sign or something like that inside of the brackets, would you be able to warn for that through the tooling, or is it too dynamic for that?
So maybe actually it may be too difficult to warn through the tooling. I'm not sure. Like, I'm always positively surprised by the type inference and intelligence in the TypeScript and JavaScript type analysis. So it wouldn't surprise me that much if it could warn you, and if it just warned you already. But in the runtime, so right now the development version of Imba and the production version is practically the same. Like, you only minify things in the production version. That's it. Now that we have a lot more newcomers and people are actually trying things out and will end up writing code that isn't optimal or things that are wrong, then I do think we should start making kind of a development mode where the compiler can actually compile and add a lot of these checks. So one check there would be that when you run it in development mode, it will actually rewrite all the raw array accesses through a helper method that actually looks to see if you are trying to access negative indexes, and then it gives you a warning in the console or in the browser. But it's difficult to do in the tooling.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
I happen to have a friend who works at Polymer, and he says that these types of discussions, so specifically around the display block thing and the ability to do something like the array thing, he says that sometimes discussions, they end up taking years inside of Google, and so it's extremely painful to make something that will just always works in all cases.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I think this approach definitely makes sense.
Yeah. Cool. So I will actually wait. I will not go through the indented hook for classes right now because it's not supported in the version that's running on Scrimba. When it's supported, I will make a quick video about it. It's essentially a way to have a method that will predictably always be called after the constructor has finished, but before the constructor returns. And that means that it's completely irrelevant if you only have a single class, but when you start inheriting from that class, it is very practical to be able to have some code run after the constructor of your subclass. Yeah, I need to explain. I need to actually show some examples. It departs kind of from the class.
You want to take over the screen? You can.
No, but that's the thing. I should show it when it actually works on Scrimba. So it shouldn't be that difficult to explain, but there are a lot of important use cases for it, especially when you embrace classes and use them for your data layer. Like if you have a base class called resource or something, and all types of data you actually inherit from that base class, then it makes a lot of sense to be able to call some stuff after you know that the main constructor and any constructor in any subclass has finished. Because that's kind of tricky with ES6 today, the way classes are designed.
Do you think you're gonna have some examples for that later today, or is that
maybe down? I'm not sure. I will at least probably not be able to get it up and running on Scrimba before that. It's just tiny mention in the meeting in the changelog, so most people won't. It is experimental, and most people won't have to touch it at all. But especially if you develop some data libraries or frameworks that do stuff with classes or tags that inherit from other classes or tags, then it is very powerful. But yeah, it's needed in Scrimba as well for the way we do widgets and stuff internally. You can move on to upcoming. Class decorators are coming in the next release, which is tomorrow, I guess. That's just the basic decorators, the way you know it from TypeScript. It's very practical to be able to implement. It could be used to add some common methods to different classes, like essentially a mix-in. And it could be used to, if you have systems where you need to register certain classes in a lookup table or something. If you have a bunch of different data types and you need to say that this data type has this type name, and then you need to map it up in a dictionary or something. To see more use cases, you could probably just search for class decorators in TypeScript, and I'm sure there are a bunch of different examples. I'm still not happy with the actual decorator API at all. Like, using the decorators is fine, but how you define decorators is really weird and suboptimal. I will probably make changes to that for the final version 2 release. I'm not too worried about keeping compatibility with TypeScript or JavaScript in that case, because the decorators in JavaScript are in flux already. So they've scrapped the decorator proposal that was actually used in Babel, and that a lot of different libraries used. I'm sure some of you have probably used something like MobX and MobX State Tree, where they had decorators that were really useful for wrapping properties and saying which properties were dynamic and computed and stuff. But you've probably also seen that in the later versions of those libraries, they have reverted back from using decorators at all. And the reason for that is that the proposed decorators API have changed a lot, and at least in my opinion, become much less powerful, because it doesn't allow you to actually modify the signature of the objects you're decorating. So yeah, I am going to think more about the decorators and how to more cleanly define them. I wouldn't be too worried about using them though, because unless your decorators are extremely complicated, it will be rather trivial to move them to this new API when that comes, or like this new style of defining.
Quick question on that.
Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, do you feel like the future direction of class decorators and Imba is going more towards the conceptual nature of like monkey patching in Ruby, or more towards the way that kind of TypeScript tries to like reduce code in general just by stuffing things in decorators for classes?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it is difficult. I've already thought about it. Like if you want to use decorators for monkey patching or for mixing in additional methods and helpers on classes and stuff, that's definitely a good use case, but it's very difficult to make the tooling play nicely with it. Like it's rather complicated to extend the types and make TypeScript understand that the decorators are adding these and these methods. So for me, at least, I think it will mostly, the use cases I see that are most useful is for, yeah, the simpler things like logging when a method is called, or adding some metadata to a property, or yeah, defining different types of properties that are persisted with local storage or whatever, like small changes like that.
I think that sounds great to me.
Yeah.
I feel like the monkey patching can kind of, it can grow so complex and deep that because it can be that complex and deep, it almost becomes a detractor of the language. I feel like what originally was like a feature has become almost like a thing to struggle with over the years. And something that just came to mind when you were describing this in the first place, and for context, this was the first time I heard about the use your description there. I thought that, well, already coming from Ruby and inspiration, if it's kind of described as, hey, you can monkey patch in Imba, then I think it's going to get more of a negative response from the community than a positive one at this point.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, definitely. Cool. So yeah, JSPM support for up-to-date Screamo versions. I struggle a lot with it. Some of you might have seen that I foolishly published like 10 alpha versions in a row, just trying to make the JSPM import map generator work. But the problems I had were actually seems to be unrelated to the changes I made in those 10 alphas. So that was kind of stupid.
But the JSPM thing, is that like a unpackaged JS alternative, or what is it?
No, it's actually, it's very nice. It's actually just kind of a wrapper for NPM that embraces ECMAScript modules, so that you can use packages from NPM directly in the browser. So if you just generate an import map via JSPM, it will actually run through, let's say you import React, it will actually analyze the React repositories, convert certain files, and then give you an import map that allows you to actually just import the raw source files of React and resolve all the relative imports, etc., using import maps, which is the kind of the holy grail for client-side JavaScript unbundling. That is still not supported. I think it's still only supported in Chrome or something, but JSPM also has this full ES modules shim that actually works really well.
Nice.
So yeah, it will clean up a ton of things on Scrimba for running things like React and dependencies, and it's just much cleaner because it's much closer to the native browser technology. So yeah. For the it's true that multiple requests to import libraries would slow down website loading times. So I'm not suggesting that JSPM is the end-all solution for production builds. Like in many cases for production, you will want to bundle things together. But at the same time, if browsers actually supported import maps natively, I wouldn't worry too much about importing a lot of files, because you can always You can always do module preloads, like either as link tags or in the HTTP headers, where you actually tell the browser that all of these different URLs are going to be loaded. And also you can actually, what's brilliant with import maps is that you can, if a single file that you import somewhere changes, then you can just change the reference to that specific file in your import map. And then all the other files will still be cached in the browser from your previous visit. So this, yeah, it's helpful for prototyping, but also, as I said, if import maps were fully supported in browsers now, I think it would be even better than bundling in a lot of cases. So the best would probably be very smart type of bundling, where it does really intelligent code splitting based on how often various parts of our application changes. But yeah.
Yeah, so I just wanted to add, Sindre, I saw a dialogue from Zoom. I don't know if you guys saw it too. So the meeting ends in 9 minutes. So I have to do the upgrade thing. So we have to be really fast. And Kenneth just joined. Kenneth, if you have any questions, drop them in the chat and we'll add them to the queue. So let's do this in 8 minutes and 55 seconds.
Okay, so the tooling has been pretty unstable lately for me. And that's because I have installed the TypeScript Next plugin in VS Code that actually uses the latest nightly version of TypeScript. And that has broken a lot of internal APIs that we use in the TypeScript plugin to get really good tooling. So I uninstalled that and now things are working better. So I would recommend people who have that installed to like disable it for now if you have trouble with completions not showing up and stuff. I'm also going to release a new version of the tooling later this week that includes decorator completions and a few other fixes and improvements. Documentation, we don't have time to talk that much about it. Maybe we could start another meeting, Alexander, or I'm not sure.
Sounds good. Sounds good. We can schedule another meeting for that.
Yeah, because I do think it's very important now that we have new members, a lot of new members. It is really important to find out both what needs to be documented, like what has the highest priority, and how do we do all the documentation. Because still, I'm relatively swamped in other work, so I don't have that much time to focus on the documentation itself right now. But at the same time, I definitely need to be around to make sure that the documentation's actually, yeah.
It's almost like you should hire someone.
Yeah, we are thinking about that, definitely. So, but that's probably at least a few weeks in the future. But we have that the job posting that's many of you have probably seen for Scrimba, and at the same time, we will probably hire someone to at least part-time do documentation and community stuff for Imba. So yeah. Yeah, we didn't get time to go through. I started looking at the inertia integration earlier today that a new member actually have worked on and posted a few examples for. It looks very interesting. After looking at the source code, I see that I really need to get my head around what inertia is and how it would best be integrated with Imba. But it's a really great start, and it's fun to see someone trying to integrate Imba with other existing stuff. So yeah. What's the best way us in the community can help out? I think just being active on the chat is fantastic, like posting bugs and questions and discussing in the documentation channel what needs to be improved and stuff. There have been a few pull requests for the documentation already, I think, which is also great. Did you say something, Abdullah?
Oh, hi guys.
Hey.
I'm sorry I was late. I was really hoping to attend the whole meeting, but I had a client meeting. So
yeah, no problem. No problem. It's really cool. You've been pretty active, haven't you? Like played around a lot.
Yeah, I actually enjoyed the Imba experience very much. So
Yeah.
I started implementing Ping CRM in Imba,
Yeah.
and it's coming out quite nicely. There are a couple of things, like portals. How do you do them in Imba? And I've been delaying working on that until I know, like, because Scrimba is a pretty big app, and I thought, like, maybe it's already built there. So if we could extract that, or maybe include it in the language like Vue, because Vue have teleports, they call them. Yeah.
Yeah, I've talked about this before, that at least for the data layer, for the state management, I have this kind of homegrown states data layer that I recreate in almost every app, and it looks very similar in every app, but I still haven't had the time to actually formalize it and pull it out from anywhere. It's at the same time relatively customized for each case. I'm hoping that now that we have some more users and people, I'm really looking forward to see like what state management experiments stick and what doesn't stick, and see if people come up with something cool. I think the inertia adapter looks like a very cool avenue to pursue. I've just delayed it for some time now, but I am going to spend a day or so just making Meteor work nicely with Imba 2, like make a decent Meteor to-do app example or something, because Meteor is actually pretty nice. Like the whole database syncing integration is very nice, at least from my experience with it earlier. And I know a few people have actually requested support for that. I think it's still a huge downside to Imba that there are no recommended ways to deal with data at all. So it's good that you can actually roll your own stuff, but it's bad if you want to just start out and try to make some app, then it's very difficult to do that right now. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
And I think it's difficult to. I've talked to Trafnar, which is the guy who essentially designed the website and has done a lot of Imba stuff. It took him weeks and weeks of using Imba to understand that you didn't need something like use hooks in React. And there are a few patterns that people are so used to coming from React and Vue that until you really understand the concept of not having to do state management for the sake of the DOM reconciler, until you really understand that, it's very it's difficult to understand what types of pattern to use. So it would be really great if we can get someone like him to go through his experience and try to write down or create a video about the epiphanies he had coming to the conclusion that you don't need something like that.
Yeah, exactly. That'd be very helpful.
Yeah.
In my short experience, I was building the inertia adapter.
Yeah.
And it has hooks in Vue and React. But then I said I'm gonna build a function. But then I said no. I just need a class, and it was just editing stuff. It was super fun to build. Super easy. I was removing a lot of hooks. They're just assigning stuff, mutating stuff. It was straightforward, and so yeah.
Sorry to cut you off, Abdullah, but we are going to have to wrap up. There's going to be a second meeting later today. We're going to get the Zoom time limit resolved and also the YouTube live. So is there anything you want to say wrapping up, Sindre?
Yeah, if just to you, if the time limit is something that can be removed, you have to pay or something, then just talk to me on Discord and then we'll figure it out.
Yeah, we can
get
that
that resolved.
Pretty
hard limit. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think it's a good limit to keep the meeting short.
It should just be a little longer, I guess.
Yeah. Thank you for taking the time. So see you later. Hopefully all of you can make it for the second meeting.
And we can definitely keep the discussion going on the chat as well, and also do some audio stuff on Discord. But just keep it going on the chat on Discord. And it was really nice to see new people here who are interested in Imba. So just stay stay in it. You will meet a lot of troubles now that you're so early at adopting the language, but just stick to it and ask for help in the channels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks. Have a great day. Talk to you later. Bye.
Talk to you
Thank
later.
you. Bye.
Bye.